Alright, hey guys, Cleanup here. And today I've got a special video for you guys. We're gonna go over my thoughts about Kang. So as you guys all know, he's been out for a week, and there's been a lot of discussion about is this card good, is this card bad, but I think a lot of people don't realize there's a lot more complexity to the card than most people give him credit for. So, in this video we're gonna go over the pros, the cons. We're gonna go over the simple strategies, then we're gonna go over the complex psychological elements that, or to me, really bring out the card and really is why I love this card. I do admit it is not the highest tier card, most powerful card, but it is, to me, extremely fun. Alright. Simple strategies. Well, everybody knows by now what's now being called the Kang Snap. It's on turn 6. You are playing out your hand and then boom, it's a boomer, you get snapped on, and it seems like it's a boomer snap, but you have a doubts in your mind. Boomer snap is, people boomer snap quite a lot, but these days, people are snapping on turn 6 ever more than they usually do. And sometimes it's because they're actually snapping on turn 6 to get you to retreat because they've been doing something called the Kang Snap. Now, that's very simple and straightforward, and that allows them to, if you do retreat, they get the cube. If you don't retreat, and they determine that your play is too good, then they retreat themselves. So Kang has been serving a great purpose to sometimes steal cubes, but also to save cubes from themselves. However, while everybody knows about that, there is a lot of math that goes behind the downsides of Kang. And so Kang is the 12th card in your deck, and it greatly reduces the potential of your deck because now you have essentially an 11 card deck, with the 12th being this somewhat gimmicky card that just resets the turn. How valuable is that? And how valuable is the 12th card? So first off, I will have to say that 12 cards in a deck, every single card in your deck you have a 75% chance of drawing. So if you have, let's say you were originally going to play a Shang-Chi, now you have a Kang. Well, 75% of the time by the end of the game, you have to ask yourself, would you rather have had a Shang-Chi in this position or a Kang? And the answer is always, you want a Shang-Chi, you want that tech card. So really the only time that you want Kang consistently is in some of the Galactus decks to see if you are going to be Cosmoed or Arrowed. Or also, personally, I've been throwing it in every single one of my decks, kind of like a Chavez. It hurts your deck, but not that much, and in some ways, it always has a slight positive. Let's go over the reasons why I really like the card, and then actually, let's talk about the other cons. Yeah, let's talk about the other cons. Alright, so what is another con about this card I've been noticing? And it really depends on the person, but for me, I've played this game like almost, I want to say 500 hours at this point, and on turn 5 and turn 6, I feel like I can predict what the other person is doing without having played Kang. It's similar to why I used to like Daredevil when I was newer, but as I got more and better at this game, I asked myself, do I really need a Daredevil to know what they're doing on turn 5? Like, they've played, back when Sarah was played quite often, did you really need a Daredevil to see that they played a Sarah? Or for example, you can ask yourself, do you really need a Kang to see how strong Mr. Negative turn 6 is? And the answer is often no. So why do you have a card that clogs up your hand for the first 4 turns, and on turns 5 and 6, you don't actually need to play him to know that you should retreat, or to stay in? So that's one of the reasons why Kang probably shouldn't be played by most people, unless they really have no idea what they're very new and they just need to know what is the turn 6 power of this deck or that deck. Most people are familiar enough with the deck archetypes that they don't really need that. So, let's go over the complex things. Now, we've talked about enough of the cons, and I want to talk about specifically why I really, really enjoy this card. Kang is one of the first cards in this deck that really adds the psychological element to the game. When you have played on turn 6, you boomer snapped, And they're like, okay, let's stay in because they're super strong, but not super strong that they're winning every single time. So they stay in, they see Kang, and then they think, oh crap. They just played Kang, they just saw my play, it was my best play, and then they start second doubting themselves. I actually have an amazing clip to show you guys. Let's go over this clip. So we have final turn. Let's look at the board state. We're winning, we have initiative, we can play Kang freely without getting Cosmoed. And I would like to point out that he has a Captain Marvel in Icebox. He's played, he is Shuri, and in Plunder's Castle, we have a Shuri against, and we have a Shuri player that doesn't play well into Plunder's Castle. But he plays his best hand, and let's see what he does. We Kang Snap him, and he waits. We wait for him to play. Let's fast forward here, and he sees Red Skull. Okay, we reset. But let's pause for 1 second. Let's look at this board. So, Icebox. This is this Icebox, by the way. You'll see what it hit eventually. But he played Captain Marvel on the right, and all he has to do to win is to play this exact same thing that he played. We don't have a play that beats Red Skull mid. We have initiative ourselves, but we can't even play Shang-Chi mid to kill the Red Skull. However, what do we do here? We're like, okay, we're completely lost. We're completely lost. We have no play that beats the play that he just did. What do? Well, we did a Kang Snap, and it looks like we lost, right? But no. What we do again is we snap again. And this is the part that I love so much. It's not that it's great, but this dude is squirming in his chair. He's like, oh shit. This guy just snapped me again, and he knows I have a Red Skull now, and he knows that he might win. Like, he probably has a play that beats Red Skull mid now, right? So what does he do?
Higher, further, faster, baby.
He ends up playing Red Skull left. And the only play that lost him the game was to play Red Skull left. He could have, yeah, I think he could have actually played Red Skull right. And I think Captain Marvel would have left for Plunder's Castle. But anyways, there's no other card that has this crazy psychological torture that you can put on people by playing him. And to me, that's a lot of fun. And while it's not, it was essentially a bluff on my part. But being able to bluff and being able to do these tricks and gimmicks, it's what I play for. And that's why it's like, this is why I play pool 1 to pool 2 and challenge against these high infinite players, playing Shuri and Thanos. I love these gimmicks that can challenge players to be better, rather than, continually do the same thing over and over again. We made him squirm. Alright, now, the other thing that, this last point is actually something I think that most people haven't really thought about at all. And so Kang snapping, when Kang came out, a lot of people felt like Kang was overpowered, because you can always just Kang snap and grab a cube or two. At that point, they hadn't really realized that there is a downside to having Kang in the deck. Some people realized it, but there is also another downside. You can actually punish Kang snappers by when you sense a Kang snap, you can pretend you know your best hand and you play your second best hand or your third best hand, just to trick them into thinking that they can beat you. So how do you identify a Kang snap? Well, it's sometimes pretty hard to, right? And the way I've thought about this is you want to classify the board state on turn 6 into 3 positions. One where they are winning by a lot and they are clearly, they can beat you quite easily by a really simple linear play. So that's usually when boomer snaps happen. And if they Kang snap for you, then you pretend it's a boomer snap and you retreat and you're like, okay, if you have Kang, sure. The other two board states is one where you are very far ahead and you get snapped on. And if you think about all the things that you lose to, there's not an easy Shang-Chi that you lose to. There's not a super like two-part combo like an arrow and a death and a death. And then you're like, okay, if they snapped, why did they snap? And that's when you know that's probably a Kang Snap. On that turn, you could play a much weaker play, and they might retreat anyway, but they will likely be more confident in staying if you were to play your weaker play that beats both Kang, and also if they were just really stupidly bluffing for whatever reason. And then the third board state is when both sides are approximately equal and neither person should be that confident that they have the nuts in their hand. And when you get snapped, then that is when it's like, okay, your spider senses are tingling. No, your Kang senses are tingling, and that's I do have a clip for this, and someone Kang snapped me, and I thought for a second, it's like, is this a Kang snap? Is this a Kang snap? And I decided it was, and I played a combination of cards that was actually weaker. I baited them into a false sense of confidence. After the Kang resets, they snapped us again, and we steal all their cubes. So, Kang is punishable. A lot of people say that Kang Snap is just a new brain-dead leader play that you just, oh right, you just Kang Snap, you get a cube or two. But it's not. It's still very punishable. Leader was punishable. Kang is punishable. And we need to start, once we play against it enough, we start learning how to play around it. Of course, Kang, to the average player, they rarely see it. For me, last week, when Kang just came out, I saw him like around 30% of the games, because in the high MMR bracket, everybody has all the cards in the instant that it comes out. How much will we see play in the future? I'm looking forward to him in battle mode, where I think he might have a little bit more use, but I still think it's not going to be that good. If people want to take their tournaments seriously, they don't need Kang to figure out what cards are in the opponent's deck. They can slowly figure that out early in their earlier rounds, and then they should, if they're good, start playing around it. However, I think I will play Kang in a tournament because I want to add that psychological element. I want to torture my opponents. So that's why I'm going to be playing Kang more. So if you're looking for a card that is super strong, that wins you all the games, that you can play without really thinking, Kang is not your card. You should probably look for Thanos or Shuri. But if you're looking for a card that adds a very interesting element of gameplay, then Kang might be the card that's just for you. Maybe I'll just end on that. But anyways, have a good one, guys.